Hello everyone, my name is Lucas from Chewie Painting. Today I have another tutorial for you. Today it's gonna be all about photography and not only the classic photo booth, black background kind of shots, but we will be doing some cinematographic shots. And for this I have prepared some models, the 9 Nazgul, and I have prepared some terrain. And I want to show you my process of how I create these kind of images. Alright, in order to get started, I will show you two things. One is with a regular smartphone, because everyone has that at home, just to show you that the most important stuff is the setting and how you arrange the objects and the positioning of the light. And the other half I will be showing you is with a proper camera. For now we will start with the camera. I will build it up here. Usually it's good to have it on the ground level because then you are on eye level with the miniature. The other thing that's quite good with positioning it low is that you can easily hide the base. So if you want to do a realistic shot with a miniature, usually it's good to get rid of the base, either by covering it from the camera. So if you have something in the foreground and the miniature is lower than that, you kind of position the miniature so it just gets covered a little bit. The other way is that you get rid of the base completely and just glue the miniature onto a bigger base. I have used this for this kind of action quite a lot. I've used this for many of my cinematic shots. For you, I will build up a camera right here so we can have a look through the viewport and check how the Mini is looking, and then we will rearrange the terrain. Here you can now see the camera and the scene, and whenever I move this house around, it will change in the scene again. And what I'm looking for is to create a good foreground, which is happening here. And you cannot see the base, which is always great because it looks much more realistic. And then I'm trying to slowly add some of the details. Zoom in with the camera a little bit. And now you can quite well see that just by positioning it in a smart way, we get rid of the base. Now we have like a clear foreground, a clear background, and some items on the sides. And for now, I will use this. I will show you the kind of settings that are important and how to set it up, and yeah, let's get started. Okay, this is how most cameras build up. So they have an exposure time, an aperture, and the ISO. And on the lens, it will say something like 16 to 50 millimeters, which is basically the zoom of the lens, and you can also call it focal length. You can keep the ISO on automatic, and we will concentrate on the rest. So let's start with the exposure time. If you turn on the wheel and it's like 1/20th of a second, it'll be quite bright, and if you turn it down too much, it'll get too dark. As a rough guideline, I would recommend keeping it at 1/60th of a second. And with the aperture, you can also control the brightness and darkness of a picture, but you can also control the depth of field. So it's getting blurry in the foreground the smaller the number is. Like here it's overexposed, but at 2.8 it's very blurry in the foreground, so you can use this as a kind of creative tool. But usually I kind of take photos at a higher aperture like f/22, because then the miniature itself is kind of sharp and you don't lose anything to this motion blur. So here as an example, I'm using the smallest possible aperture, which is f5.6 on this lens and camera. And as you can see, while I'm turning it up, so you can see how much sharper the horses on the sides are compared to before. But here you gotta be careful, because now the exposure time has to be 1/6 of a second, and this is way too low because then your pictures will get blurry. But you can add more light if you want to shoot pictures with a very high aperture for this maximum sharpness. Alright, Now that we kind of know what's going on with the camera, it's all about the composition of the picture. So I place the camera on one point and I kind of build up the scene around it. So I'm placing my miniatures, placing some terrain, while keeping the back of the head that you kind of want to cover up the bases, the rim of the bases. And yeah, then you take a picture. Okay, now we have kind of arranged all the miniatures where we want them so that the shot looks cool and we like the miniatures. Now we will add some light to the scene, and for this I have this fun project, which is an LED panel with colored LED. And as a next step, I will just try out where the light looks best and look through the viewfinder how this affects my scene. So in this phase I'm just trying out and checking what looks coolest. Looking through the viewport will show you how the picture will kind of look like in the end, and if you're not sure whether to use white light or colored light, it really depends on the kind of light situation you want to create, and it's all up to you. So mistakes happen from time to time, so here you can still see a base rim or a cable in the back, but for example the horse in the foreground is blurry because of the aperture, and I kind of like that on that pic. Okay, we have our scene set up, we have our lights to make it more interesting, and now if you want to go all in, I have something special for you. The smoke machine, so you can give all of this scene more epicness, and especially the combination of smoke and light, here you can see pretty well, is giving interesting effects. This is super cheap. You can get one of those smoke machines for like 50 bucks. And let's look into the viewport again, what kind of effects we can achieve with this. So the main part when it comes to taking pictures with a fog machine or smoke machine is getting the right moment. Here I'm struggling a bit because it's hard to activate the smoke machine and film and take pictures with the second camera. But here you can see, so I'm taking like a series of pictures because the smoke moves on every picture, and then later on you can choose the best one that you kind of like the most. For me personally, I like it more when the smoke is kind of gone, so I'm waiting till it kind of moves away and then take a series of pictures. So here you can see how different all of these kind of same compositions can look, and also the same works for a mobile phone. So you can take your smartphone out and take a couple pictures. I usually do this in addition to the pictures with a big camera, just because then I have them on my smartphone right away. I don't have to edit them, can send them to friends or upload them to social media right away. So smartphones do definitely have their advantages, but be aware that certain shots that have big quality or where you want to show a lot of details of a miniature and zoom in a lot, like here, this is probably not possible on a smartphone. Okay, to sum it up, I will show you a full walkthrough of this scene. So first of all, I position the camera, then I do the composition where I rearrange some of the models and the terrain. Once this is fixed, I'm adding some of the light. I'm usually choosing between plain white light or taking some extreme colors, like this classic teal and orange, blue tones and red tones always tend to work. And then some special effects with adding smoke or with a vapor, that also works. And then I kind of repeat steps 1 to 4 and exchange stuff, move stuff around, use different lights, change the light, do pictures with smoke or without smoke. And then in the end, I choose all of my favorite pictures from that photo session. What I have noticed for the light situation, what always works is having it on a ground level or like here behind the object. So this is always creating some kind of spooky atmosphere and setting. So here by moving the light around, you can see how the shadow is cast from the miniatures themselves. And just playing around with those two is making so much difference. So just try it out and test it. Another light composition I'm using is this dual light from both sides. This is eliminating all of the shadows of the miniatures because they get the light from both sides. And last but not least, we can do some final tweaks in Photoshop. This is totally not necessary, but as a designer, I kind of have this tool on my computer, so why not use it? So here you can see one of the shots I was taking earlier, and I'm kind of working backwards because I had these already edited. So you can see me here working the other way around, taking the stuff away that was already edited. So it's just little tweaks, making the foreground darker or some minor changes here and there. But in the end, these kind of mini changes can make a huge difference. So here's an example of the unedited shot and the edited shot. For some people this might seem like cheating, but I think it's all about creating an atmosphere and sometimes not only about the painting of the miniatures. So from time to time I'm taking this extra step so these pictures look even more interesting and it's even more entertaining. And I kind of had the feeling that on Instagram most people kind of like these kind of shots on my page. So I'm trying to deliver the most atmospheric pictures for you guys. And in the end it's just minor tweaks like a bird here and there. Or on this picture I've changed quite a lot on the light setting. So this is the edited picture and this was the original, so you can see how I was adding a lot of sunlight from the left corner, or here from Star Wars Legion a lot of action shots and little sparks, which just creates these kind of cool shots. Here are some of my shots that I've been taking in the past just to inspire you, because I want you to recreate your scenes with your miniatures, and feel free to tag me. I'm really curious to see what you come up with. So here's some inspiration for you. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. This is how I usually take pictures for cinematographic scenes. This is my walkthrough. It's mainly trying out, improvising, moving things around, moving the light around, and looking into the camera what looks best. I hope you recreate stuff. I'm curious to see. And yeah, that's it for today. And I'd say, Chewie out. Goodbye. I can only recommend using a smoke machine.